So I want to tell you guys the story of a shaman my brother once lived with. He's been showing up in my life a lot recently, and his name is Dan, and he died I think a few years ago, but his spirit has manifested himself quite frequently in my life, and especially lately, and I just kind of wanted to go into what this means for me, and like the dream that I had and the stranger that I met the other day, and like how all of these really weird things have been happening to me. I always have to check to see if I'm recording just in case. But so I guess I'll start off with how like a few weeks ago my brother told me how Dan, his shaman that he lived with, ended up like when he was pretty young, he ended up in Peru on like a business trip or something, and he ran out of money there, and how this man kept coming up to him and telling him that he needed to I don't know like specifically, but it was like go on a spiritual path, or like I don't know if it was work with ayahuasca or like do a ceremony or what it was, but Dan, he was like, I don't have money, I'm in Peru, I lost everything I have. And then the shaman, like weird being, tells him he needs to go to this casino or something. And Dan is just like, this doesn't make any sense, I'm not going to take a risk like that. And he goes to the casino, and I think 3 times he plays the same machine, and every single time he makes a couple thousand. And after this, he realized what kind of quest he was on. And first of all, he canceled. I mean, he didn't cancel his ticket to fly home. He just didn't go home. The flight, he missed his flight because he was just like, I'm supposed to stay here. And he goes to Machu Picchu, and my brother tells me he sits on this mountain, and his hair goes all the way up, and it's just electric. And then obviously the story's very convoluted because it's been like passed down from my brother and his memory and then my memory of it. And then I think the shaman shows up again behind him or something, or some weird random person just comes up to him and pretty much tells him that he has to come with him. And this shaman takes Dan into this cave, and the shaman doesn't go in there with him, but Dan goes into this cave where it's just pitch black, and it's like a sensory deprivation kind of experience because he's just in there alone. And he told my brother that in the cave he did the dark night of the soul walk, or whatever that the term is called. But apparently like he was pretty much through that experience initiated into shamanism, and from there on out he knew his purpose here on this earth. And I'm telling you this story because he opened up the portal into my heart when I was, I think, 13 or 14. My family, lucky enough, got in contact with him, and even though it didn't end on the best terms, I was introduced to his spirit. One moment in this eternity stood out to me very prominently, was that one day I was at Dan's house in his little garden, and I was supposed to go on a camping trip, and it was just him and I talking, and he would make these flower of life plastic images with mirrors in the back, and he held up the flower of life from his heart, and then pointed it, or the sun was beaming down on us, and then he said, can't you see that this flower is in all beings, in all things? And then he says, look down at your heart. And I looked down, and his flower of life heart was beaming straight onto mine, and something clicked, and I was into like astral projection and dreams and stuff, but this just opened up my heart or something. And I remember for a long time before this happened, I would go to his house and I didn't enjoy his company because I thought he was like, I don't know, I thought it was just too extreme, the things he was telling, because I was a little girl, and he would say like these intense stories, and now I can see they were like psychedelic journeys, and he told me about like the spiritual significance of an egg and a sperm meeting, and I was like little, so I was just like, I didn't like this man. And then after this, like I understood his purpose in my life, but then from there on out, that was probably one of the last times I ever saw him. And anyways, I'm sorry, this is so random, but I just really feel like I need to talk about it. So he introduced sacred geometry and just really in-depth concepts to me as a very young girl. And I remember one very specific time where he re-entered into my life after he died, was that my best friend and I took the Hawaiian baby woodrose seeds, if you see my other video, and I had a very horrific experience, and I was losing it, and at one point I felt his presence there, and my heart felt very calm, and the sun rose, and then I was finally able to sleep. But yeah, I feel him throughout many tragic experiences and frightening experiences, especially psychedelics for me. But also before he died, I remember I met up with my brother, and I told him that summer, I was like, I need to see Dan, and my heart had been calling and yearning for him. And literally a couple weeks later, we found out that Dan died, and I was really sad, but I knew that his spirit was living on. But anyways, this week I had a dream, and in the dream, it was a long dream, but I'll just tell you the specific part. I go to this house, and immediately reminds me of like a jungle, but like not with plants. It was very compact and had many like it was just cluttered, but in a very spiritual way. It had decorations and like Indian decorations and Tibetan decorations and things like that, and crystals everywhere. And this woman, she wants me to come in her house. I don't know for what reason, but she's very familiar to me. And so she's taking me into her house, and I look at her and I go, I've been really focusing on my dreams a lot lately to make conversation. And then she just looks at me and smiles, and like, it was all so humorous now that I think about it. And then she sits me down at this table and pulls out her tarot deck. And she tells me she's going to pull like 3 cards. Maybe she doesn't tell me. She just pulls 3 cards. The first card was, wait a sec. Sorry. I'm trying to remember. The first card was a 3. No. The first card was a 2. And she explained the meaning behind all of these cards to me, but honestly, after I woke up, I couldn't specifically remember. But it was about I think it was like past, present, future in my current situations. But she pulled me a 2, a 3, and then the last card felt like the completion card. So it was like the image was very singular to me, like a unity kind of thing, where it's just one image, one celebration, one completion stage. Like, it was really weird. It was like going from 2 to 3 back to the 1 or something like that. And I don't know. And I remember I woke up immediately, and because she pulled the last card, and she's like, okay, now it's time to integrate and wake up and experience the life, experience all that is. And so I did, and then I wrote the experience in my journal, and I remember writing down, I wrote down the fact that she was the female version of Dan. And this will make sense in a second from now, because this shows up again. Dan shows up again this day. But and then I pull 3 tarot cards in the morning, and you wouldn't believe, like, I wish I had my journal to tell you what they were, but the imagery was a man with open arms like this, a woman with open arms like this, and then the last woman was like arms up or something. And I looked through the whole deck, and those were the only ones with a human being like with open arms. And I got all 3 of those, and the meaning behind them when I read them was absolutely insane as well. So there was that. And then I did some yoga, and that started my day off very well. And then later on, I continue my day, and my friend and I are walking down the street, and randomly this guy starts talking to us, and he says, "Happy Chinese New Year." And I said, "Oh, when does that begin?" And he says, "Oh, it's February." And I said, "That's very close then." And then I asked him what animal it was, which everything he said he was very assured of. And he looked at me and he said, "It's the snake." And now that I realize it's the rooster, I'm just like, okay. But he looked at me and he's like, "It's the snake." And I was like, immediately in my brain, I saw the cyclical snake with the mouth open and the tail in the mouth. And so I was like, oh, that's interesting. Because for some odd reason, I knew it wasn't the snake. But when he said it, I believed him or something. I don't know, it was really weird. And, but then he was just like, he introduced himself. And he said, "My name is Dan. What is your name?" I freaked out at this point. I really did. And I was like, "I'm Silken." And then my friend Maddie and I were just talking to him. And then all of a sudden the light turns to walk, and he just turns around and goes off into a crowd, and he's gone. Like, he's just in the distance. And I'm just like, what just happened? I could go on and on about the crazy events that have been going on for me lately, and all of these synchronicities, and it's like, I feel like I'm freaking out because it's kind of like overwhelming. And every single time I do tarot cards now, I get the same cards. And my friend Maddie and I pulled tarot cards last night. 2 cards flipped out, and I was like, "Oh, that's funny. We pulled that the other night for me." And then I was like, "Well, what does it mean?" And then we did it again, and then the 2 extra cards that was the total of last time came out. So it was the perfect order of all of the cards that fell out a few days beforehand. And then later that night, I keep pulling the Earth Vortex, or like Earth Grid, and then I pulled out the Shaman card, and I'm just like, I don't know what's happening, and it's really quite exciting, actually. I feel that there is this shift, but a huge part of me is really afraid that I'm making this more than it is, and that, I'm going to go to South America, and I'll have a good experience, and I'll create all these memories, and I've said this before, and then I'll come back, and nothing will physically really change. It'll just be new perception, kind of like China was. Like, I learned a lot about myself, but I came back, and I did the same thing in a way. But there's a lot of doubt and fear, but then there's a lot of like curiosity and excitement with this new transition. And I say this every time, but like the tarot cards, I don't know what it is. I keep pulling the completion card. So I know that I'm at an end of a cycle. I'm at an end of a phase right now, and I'm just trying to like understand what's presenting itself right now, and if I'm like creating more delusion, or is this real? Like, I don't know what's gonna happen. I feel though that, because it's been 2 years since I said that I was going to go to South America to work with the sacred Aya medicine. And I'm asking myself, I'm like, is this it? Is this the time that I'm gonna do it? And it's just really weird too, because for China, I'm so rambling. Holy crap. Whatever, story time video, that's it. For China, before I ever even had any intention on going there, like a year before, my brother and I were camping one time, and I really wanted to go to India, but I knew that it may not be India. And I looked at him and I said, in the next year, I'm going to Asia. And he was just like, what are you talking about? And I was like, I'm going to Asia. And then right before I left for China, I told my brother again, I was like, before I'm 21, I'm going to South America. And here I am, like, what's happening? Yeah, but there have been many things throughout the past few years that I said I would do, and they failed right before my very eyes. So it's like I'm trying to find the balance of these manifestations and then letting things go the way they need to go. Because I have been let down, and I have lost hope from things not going the way that I wanted them to. And then there are other times where it flows, and it's like, whoa. Whoa. So yeah, everything's getting really magical, and I mean, it's not like it wasn't before, but I'm just starting to really notice it. Yeah, I'm really excited for the future, but I'm so damn afraid as well. And it's coming really fast. I leave in about 2 weeks. I only have 1 more week of working my nanny job. Like, where has time gone? Where has time gone? And I'm like stressed because I feel like I have so many things to do, and I really don't anymore. And I still don't know like any Spanish, and then like I'm just like, whoa, what happened? What is happening to me? It's going so fast. But it's a fast transition right now for everyone. And I'm just trying to hold on and be grounded and know myself, and to know God, and to know my deepest core of desires. And like, it's really hard to find the balance in all of this movement and to juggle all of this and to integrate it. It's very difficult sometimes. But I'm just trying to be present through it all and trying to find gratitude, most importantly. My best friend, she keeps reminding me of how important it is to just have gratitude. And yeah. Okay, I'm not gonna continue to make this video, but I'm really happy for you guys and for all of the support that I've been getting, and even the negative things. It's good for me, it's good for you, it's good for everyone. I just feel really blessed to be where I am now, and where I've always been, and where I'm headed. And I sincerely hope that everyone too has felt this shift, and even when it gets heavy, that we can find peace and serenity, and we can learn to be content through it all, and to work with our karma, and to learn to be compassionate with ourselves and others. Thank you for listening again, and I'm sure I'll be making more videos before I leave, I hope. Peace out.